provide today's class. I'm really excited about today's class. Just had a few technical difficulties getting started today with my equipment, but we should be good to go. The other problem that we had this morning was one of the recipes that we're making. It called for some prep ahead of time, and well, I'll explain later what happened. But anyhow, I'm really excited because I tried to present 3 or 4 recipes that all meet the anti-inflammatory guidelines to keep you feeling your best. I always try to provide fruits and vegetables that are in season, and same with fish, to take advantage of the peak ripeness, obviously cost savings as well. So today I'm really excited. We have a beet, which we know is a spring vegetable. It grows in the underground, and that could be usually done over winter, and you'll have those in the spring. And also those beet greens, they like the cool weather. They're also growing right now, nice and tender. And I have two varieties today. We have the gold beet, and we also have the red beet. And we know that red beet is so high in antioxidants and those kind of things that could on the short term decrease our blood pressure. Not something that you could substitute medication for, but we know on a short term, the acutely after eating, that we do get that effect. A lot of compounds in there because we get see that dark red purplish color. The other thing that we're making today, we're going to serve that with some roasted strawberries, and that's something that we have not done in class yet. So that should be fun to do, and that's going to be over a nice bed of field greens with some arugula, and we're going to make a really nice vinaigrette dressing today with using raspberry vinegar. So I'm excited about that. The other item that we're making is a very nice spinach over pasta dish, and what we're going to do is we're going to make a pesto, but we've made pestos in the past. This is a sun-dried tomato pesto. So we're just like our basic pesto, we're going to add some sun-dried tomatoes just to take up that taste level a little bit. We're going to put some of that on our salmon and bake it, and then we're also going to put that in our pasta for our finished product. But the first thing that we're making today is a spinach and leek and feta galette. And if you don't know what a galette is, it's if you want to think of a pie, because we did make a pie crust today. And we're going to put our filling in there. We're going to roll out to a nice circle, put our filling down, and then just fold it. The one thing that I like about the galette is it does not have to be perfect. So it could be slightly misshapen, and we're going to fold those edges up, and we'll get started right away so you can see what I'm talking about. And we have to get this in the oven right away because it takes almost a whole hour to cook. So let's get started with our filling. And I have already put some olive oil into our saute pan here, because we are going to saute those leeks and spinach and onions and all that spring goodness. And if you're not familiar with the leek, I will show you what that looks like. Today we are using the white part, and you have to take care to wash it very carefully. You could get a lot of dirt in here. But I've washed ours, and I sliced one, and I'm also going to slice up another one. Let me see if I could move our dough. I don't know if I can. Yes, I can. Let me see if I could get this onto a cutting board so we could demonstrate what that leek is going to look like when we cut it. I'm just moving my crust over to here. Okay, so let's move that here, and then we will get our leeks cut. Okay, so let me adjust the camera so you could see the cutting board. And again, I'm going to show you some uses today for this as well, because this is all good. We've made a baked potato and leek soup in the past, but for right now, I'm going to discard this, and you could see the dirt that gets in there. So that has to be thoroughly washed. I'm going to cut up just a little bit further. Okay, just for class sake, I've already done one here, but you could even see in here, I'm still seeing a little bit of dirt that needs to come out right there. So you do really have to check. You're not going to find too much in here. And if these are homegrown leeks, which I do have some homegrown leeks, You want to check all of those layers because that little spot is right where worms love to live. So we're just going to discard those ends. That's where you could see the root was. And then we're just going to julienne them. And they don't have to be, they're going to wilt real nicely. So we're just going to give them a few cuts. And that's all we're going to do. And we're going to saute those with some onion. Get here our little sizzle. So I have another leek that's all julienne ready to go. I have a small onion that I've diced real fine. Okay. And we're going to let that saute a little bit. We're going to saute this down, not till it's brown, but just till it's nice and soft. Just don't forget, it's going to, we just want to get it soft. There's a little brown there. We're just gonna saute it real nice because it is, we're just giving it a head start. It is gonna cook in the oven. It's probably gonna be in the oven for about an hour. So get a little bit more tender. We don't want to caramelize them. And we're also going to add the spinach and our spices and some cheese to that as well. So while we're doing that, why don't we finish rolling out our dough to the right side? I'm going to get some parchment paper. And my little snafu that happened before class was I had made it this morning because it does take some time and you want to refrigerate it for an hour. And I accidentally refrigerated for a lot longer than that. So I just had to work with it real fast. Just held it in my hand for a little bit. And we should be good to go. And I will adjust the camera. So the ingredients, this is just, and I'm going to use my parchment paper here because I'm actually going to bake it on the parchment. I don't want to, let's try to, just cracked it a little bit when I was trying to transfer it. But anyhow, so this was roughly a cup and a half of all-purpose flour, and then a teaspoon of salt and about probably 4 to 6 tablespoons of ice water and about a half cup of butter chilled. And that's the nice thing about this is we can leave it right on the parchment paper to cook. So just, get this here. Roll it out real nice. And you want to make sure that it's equal. I could feel it's a little bit higher over here. So I'm going to try to get it to the other side. We don't have all the room because of our camera, but we'll make do. And it's always, I like doing this on the countertop and transferring if you have a nice flat, clean surface that you could get nice and clean and sanitary. And then you could flour it and work really nicely on it. Okay, so that's pretty good right there. Let's give our, okay, so we've got this going. We're going to add our garlic. All that is nice and tender. Add our garlic. Let that saute for another minute. And then we're going to add our spinach. And I have probably about a pound of spinach here, fresh spinach. So we'll just keep sauteing that down. And pretty much everything else that we put in there, we're going to put in egg. And now this is where you could get creative with it. You could use ricotta cheese. You could use cottage cheese. Cottage cheese is having its moment. We did that with our last class. And today we're going to use some feta cheese. I was just doing a little Greek twist on it. So we have feta cheese. We're also going to add Parmesan and dill. So just to give it some unique flavor there. So between all of these spring flavors, I think it's going to turn out very nicely. Let's just get this stirred. My spoon here. So our spinach isn't gonna take that long too, it's just gonna wilt a little bit. And it seems like that, almost a pound is a lot of spinach, but really it's gonna cook down. And it's just gonna be just enough filling to put right in the middle of our pie shell. And then after we get that on, there's a lot of options. I like you could put sesame seeds on it. You could just put a nice egg wash on it to get that little bit of a sheen to it, really helps. So let's just keep cooking this down. And we're gonna stay with this until we get it in the oven because really that spinach should cool. It's probably not gonna cool too much for us, but let me go get the pan that we're going to put this on. I'm going to use a stoneware. Put it right under here. So we're all ready for that. And I'll show you it's not perfectly shapen, but it's gonna be really nice when we're done. Doesn't have to be the perfect circle. I mean, it's nice if it is, but this will make it look nice and rustic. Okay. And we're almost there, just a few more leaves to wilt. I'll show you what that looks like. Nice. So we're getting a nice, our spinach, our leeks, onions, garlic. So we'll just give that another stir and that looks nice. Now, ideally, we like this to cool before we add our eggs and our cheeses to it. So I'm going to transfer it. Sometimes I just leave it in the skillet like that and wait for it to cool down. Just let it cool down for 10 minutes. But we're going to move it to a bowl just to help it cool a little faster and get us in the oven quicker. So we're just going to get all of the filling in here. Okay. I'll show you what that looks like. Make sure I get all the garlic and everything out of here. Okay, I'm just going to stir this around a little bit just to cool it off. Okay, and then we're going to add our cheeses. And I also have some, let's move our shell. And we'll add our cheeses. And I also have some dill that I did not chop up. So let's do that. And I just had some dill that I bought probably around the time of our last class because we were using it. And just froze it, so it's nice. It's ready to go. Sometimes I chop it and then freeze it, and sometimes I just freeze it, just lightly mist it, let it dry off real good, and then I chop it when it comes out. And again, the key is just taking it out beforehand. Okay, we're just going to add that to our bowl. Oh, does that smell good? Okay, fresh is always best. I do encourage you to use fresh. And then my next is just feta. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to perfectly, I have about 4 ounces here. It doesn't have to be perfectly ground or shredded. I usually do that by hand. I leave it out and then at room temperature, just put it in there. And we have our Parmesan cheese, about a half cup. And then we also have some egg here. just gonna give a nice little stir, bring that all together. And really, you could add anything. You could be, this could be more spinach. It could, like I said, ricotta, cottage cheese. I like the leeks and the spinach at this time of year. It's just so, and look how nice that looks. It just comes together real nicely. And if you want to do something different, you could mix up the spices. I like to use the dill today. You could use different greens. You could use kale, anything you like. So let's go ahead and get that ready to get in the oven. There we have our nice pie shell, and we're just going to put our filling right in the middle. Now, you could make individual ones. You know, you could use different kinds of dough, but I think this is it makes a nice thing to have on your table for Mother's Day or any of your spring brunches that you have coming up. So you just want to get it on there real nicely like that. And get it right in the middle. Beautiful. Okay. And set our bowl aside. And then we're just going to work in corners here. Just want to fold it up. And it's nice just to overlap a little bit. See how we're just doing that? Overlap. Overlap. Yeah, there I go. Doesn't need to be the perfect circle because look how beautiful that is. So just a nice little, and you could just give it a little pat where the seams are. The heat of your hands will just seal it right up. And then we're also going to put a little egg wash on this, as I said. We're going to bake it on our parchment just like that. And here I have just one egg. And we're going to get our pastry brush and this is that. We're just going to push a little bit of our egg wash on just to make it shiny. Just keep going around. And you want to make sure that your egg is well beaten. You don't want to end up with scrambled eggs on here. And then this is also your opportunity to add your sesame seeds. Some people like poppy seeds on here. I think sesame go real nicely with this particular dish. So it comes together pretty quickly, actually. So there we go. All right, and we're going to get that in the oven, and hopefully it'll be done before class is over, or at least so we can get a little peek at it. Okay, so our next item that we really want to get into the oven is our salmon dish. So let's get started on that. And today, like I said, what we're going to put on our salmon before we put it into the oven is we're going to use a pesto sun-dried tomato. So let's get that started right now. I'll move all of this over so you could see. And I love when we get out our food processor because there's just so many things we could do in here. So let's grab that. And let's just go over, there's sometimes you might be a little intimidated on how to use your food processor. So let's also go over that. All right. So we have all of our ingredients today we're going to be using. So your food processor, here's the base, and it has a certain shape here. And our bowl is going to go, I usually put it, I always tell people like aim it at 1 o'clock and then twist it into place. You'll hear it lock. This engages the bowl. Put our blade there, whatever blade you're using, that's one of the most popular ones. And then we have our lid, okay? So the lid is going to fit a certain way, and this is also going to engage in there, and that's what gets things going. And it also locks it up in the front, but this engages with that to push it down to get our blade going. So nothing to be intimidated about, very easy to use. It's not going to turn on without this lid being on like some other things that we could get our fingers cut, because remember that blade doesn't know if it's a vegetable or a finger, and it's going to cut. But that's one of the safety measures of using one of these. It's only going to turn on, or the blade's only going to turn on once this is engaged. So let's get started on our pesto. And the first ingredients, if everybody remembers, because we made it so many times in the past, is our garlic. So let's get that in. Okay, so I like to have a lot in here. This isn't one of our larger batches, so that's a pretty big clove. We're also going to put in our basil, and I have some nice fresh basil that I just cut right before class. Smells wonderful. And I'm going to show you again how we cut that. I wanted to show you the last class. And when I was cleaning up, I realized that we never went over that. So we'll look at that today. But I wanted to make sure I had it washed and ready to go. So let's give that a little pulse. And then we're going to add our oil. But having the spinach and having the basil in there when you're turning the garlic in there really helps. So we're also going to add, I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sun-dried tomatoes. Maybe we'll save one out for our garnish, and we'll put in our pine nuts, and I'm going to save some of those, probably about 3 tablespoons. And then we have our Parmesan cheese, and then I have some salt and pepper mix. Probably just a little bit like that. And we're also going to put our oil in. So I like to go like this and all that together, and then just drizzle the oil in. And we need just a little bit more oil, so let me grab that. I've got my big can here. So we'll just put it in a smaller container. And that looks really good right there. And let me just stir that down. Scrape the sides, and we'll get all this goodness in there. I could smell the garlic. I could smell everything just bursting. And it's a nice color with that. I'm just gonna try a little bit. Very good. Oh, I could taste everything. Very nice. Okay, let's get that. Let's mix this up a little bit more. Okay. All right, and I just wanted to have that done. Yes, we're going to put that on our pasta, but we're going to brush a little bit of this on our fish too. So what I'm going to do is just take a little bit out to put on the fish, because I don't want to double dip touching the fish and putting this again on our pasta. So we just need a small amount on our fish. And I'll just set that aside. This is going to go for our pasta. And we have the rest of this here. But let's just talk about our basil plant real quickly. So today, move our sauce over. This morning, rather, I had my plant was probably this tall, and you could see it's still bushy. We just don't cut across. We take your scissors or whatever you're using, and you go all the way down. I'm going to do this one here. Kind of hard to see since I already gave it a little trim this morning, but you're going to go down to you take your scissors and you go down to where there's that little Y right there. So see, I'm getting this off. It's still bushy. We're good to go. Like I said, I did this morning and it still looks nice and bushy. And if you do that, this will last all season long for you. So that's just a nice thing to keep around. And then of course, you could always trim any leaves that are, hanging off to the side there. But again, we'll use these for our garnish, but just important to know how to cut that and take care of it. Next thing we're going to do is prepare our salmon. So let me move this aside and move our pesto that we're not using on the salmon far away, just so we don't get anything contaminated. Put that aside. Okay, so today we're using a sockeye salmon because I like to use wild salmon. It's the whole fillet. This is probably about a good 1.5 pounds. It does have the skin on. I don't like to use the skin on this recipe, so we're going to remove it. So what we do is we take a hold of the back by the back of the fish, and we just place our knife flat. We hold this tight, and we're pulling this at the same time as we're guiding our knife here. And I'm going to keep getting that, hold our knife flat. We don't want to waste any fish. And keep giving it a tug. And there you go. So just lost a little bit on this side, and I will get that off a little bit better. I will save that, but anyhow, you're just left with the skin there, which is really nice. And we have our nice piece of fish here. Okay, and then I always like to cut it on an angle like that. So we're going to make a few fillets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm going to reserve the rest of this and I'll bake it, and I'll show you what I'll do with that tomorrow. I'll probably make some nice salmon patties out of that. But so we have our 4 nice fillets. Let me rinse off my hands. Okay, so now that we have those, we're going to get our salt and pepper again, and we can set that right over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a small amount of olive oil on my parchment. And I'm just going to get those a little bit just so there's no sticking. And then we're going to put our little sauce on here. So let me move my cutting board. And then we're going to put our salt and pepper first. And I always like to use white pepper with this, just looking for something delicate. I don't want to overpower my salmon. It already has a fantastic taste, right? So I think we'll just arrange those on there real nicely. And then I'm going to put our sauce on here, and I'm just going to get each one first. And I have a nice high oven. Just get that smeared on just for some nice flavor. Okay. So I'm excited about this one, and I'm just going to spread them out so they do cook evenly. There we go. All right, and I'm going to get this in our oven. And our galette looks beautiful. Let me wash off my hands. Okay, so our next item, let me adjust my camera, is our salad that we're doing. And we're doing a combination, I told you, of gold and red beets. There's several ways, and we've had many classes where we've roasted beets. We've had a lot of roast beet salads. We did the one with feta and pine nuts and butternut squash. That's an excellent recipe. And then we also just roasted some beets as a side dish, some roasted vegetables for one of our sides. I think we were doing a pork tenderloin. Today, though, and remember when we did them in the oven, we peeled them first. And then we sliced them, and then we tossed them with some olive oil and some kosher salt. And then we laid them in a thin layer on a sheet pan and baked them at 400 in a nice hot oven, convection if that's available to you, for 10 to 15 minutes, stirring somewhere in the middle, flipping them over about 7.5 minutes in. Today, though, I did something different so I could show you. Let me see if I can. Yeah, it's cold off. Okay, so today I did something a little different. I boiled them because sometimes boiling them is very easy. You scrub all the visible dirt off. You could take off the two ends if you like, especially the one with the rat tail on there that I like to call it. So you would do that and then bring them to a boil and then just let them simmer on low 10. And I'll show you images of doing this. So the advantage of doing that way makes it a little bit easier. And we'll show you how those come out. So they're still in my hot water. So I'm just going to rinse them in some cold water. And then show you how nicely this will come off. So what we're going to do is we'll cut that top off, and you can see that beautiful golden beet under there. Cut off the bottom, and you could see, look how easy it just peels right off. You can cut this, but I wouldn't, because then you're losing so much of the beet itself. You can get your paring knife involved, but I think it's good just to go like that. And then you're wasting less of the beet, and you know that nutrition is usually right next to the skin. So don't want to lose too much. And then if you have any spots, and that's just from where I cut into it just to check it, I'm just going to remove that. And then I'm going to rinse it under cold water. Now, since this is for our salad, we could do this circle beet. Look how beautiful that is. So much different than the red beet. So let me just adjust this for you. We could do one of two things. We could quarter them. You see how nice. Oh, wow. That's beautiful. I think we're going to do that, because this just looks beautiful like this. And you could see how look how nice that looks. Perfect. So, and you don't want to overdo them. So keep checking them. They shouldn't be mushy, and they shouldn't be too hard, because if they're raw in the center, it's not going to, just not going to taste very good. So, it's going to be too hard, and it's going to almost taste like dirt. So remember, just want to cut off the bottom, cut off the top, and then we're just going to slip that right off, just like that. Comes off real easy. I just let them sit in the hot water until class started, and you're going to want to rinse them in some nice cold water so you could handle them. And rinse them in some cold water again, just to get any extra, anything left from the skin. Give it a cut, and we're just going to quarter them and then get some nice little chunks. So how beautiful are they? All right, now just set this aside. Okay, and these are our red beets. So just gonna dump off some of that cooking water and rinse them with a little cold water so we can handle them. And again, just another way to do beets. It just depends what you're making that day. So if your oven is tied up with a lot of other things, like today we have our galette in there. We also have our salmon in there. So, you know, it's just maybe freeing up space. So it's nice to be able to have this option. Remember, and it says in the directions, and all the recipes are on my website. Remember that it's a root vegetable. So all the root vegetables are always going to start out in water, tubers and roots, like potatoes, beets, carrots, anything that grows underground like that. We're always going to start it off in cold water and cook it from there. So again, take off the top and take off the bottom. And then what I like to do is just give it a little slit like that. And then you could just see everything peels right off. So I'm just going to peel that over here above my sink, remove all the scraps, and then we'll give it a cut. And it's getting hot. I rinsed them, but of course They were on the stove for quite some time, so there's still a lot of heat in there. So let's get that one. Just set that. Oh, wow, this looks so beautiful too when you're doing this. Why did I want to use yellow or the the yellow beets or the golden beets today? Just for color, just to make our salad pretty. And they're so plentiful right now. It's a good time to try them. It is season for them. And really, you'll start to see them this time of year, but they're available all summer too. And the thing about them is if you do grow them yourself, that they could be left in the ground for quite some time if you're not ready for them. And pull them when you want them, and you'll have them all summer. The other thing that's nice about them is that there's so many ways to prepare them. Like I said, you could roast them. Boiling is so easy. It doesn't take any work. You just brush off the extra dirt, cut off both ends and boil them and come back a little bit later, check for tenderness, and they're ready to go. And they still have a lot of their sweetness in there too. So yes, roasting does bring out some because they're going to get brown and caramelized, but a good beet that's in season is going to be good no matter what. So I'm going to put these right next to my other ones so you could see them. Good. Yeah, these are gorgeous. And the other thing is we could can these too. It's really nice to pull these out different times of the year. That over here. You could really taste the difference with the fresh beets versus opening a can of commercially bought a can of commercial beets versus roasting them yourself. And the price, you really can't beat the price. So again, I just cut off the top and the bottom, and look, I'm just squeezing this with the cold water on, and the skins just come right off of my hands. So much easier, right, than peeling them while they're fresh and raw. I should say raw. And you lose so much. You lose so much more of the vegetable that way. And so I'm just holding it here. Look how beautiful, beautiful color. And right now they're still, I mean, we could just, we could be very simple about it and just put some olive oil and vinegar on them, some kosher salt, serve them that way. These ones I just purchased at the store, so I didn't get the greens with them. It's nice to have they call them beet tops or beet greens. Anything that you would do spinach, we could have made that in our galette today. Anything that you do with spinach, you could do with the beet greens. You could saute them and have them with a bean and green. You could put them in a shake. Just so many possibilities for them, or just add raw to your salad mix. Is just a nice another level of taste. They have a really good sweet taste to them, and they're, like I said, they're a really good addition to the shake. So many people discard them, and it's just a really cost-effective way to get those vitamins. So let's finish our salad. I do have my bed of lettuce here, and we're going to make our vinaigrette first. Let me check on our salmon, and let me show you how beautiful our beets look. So look how nice, we just have that nice variety, and I just dropped one. But anyhow, they're just beautiful. That color against the texture against each other, and the color is just really beautiful. Let me check my salmon. And the salmon is beautiful. Our galette is beautiful. I'm going to leave the salmon in there for a little bit longer while we're making the rest of our beet salad. Then we'll take out the salmon and fix it with the rest of our dish. So let me remove our beets. I don't want those to drip any bit. So we're going to make a really nice raspberry vinaigrette today. I don't think we do too much raspberry vinaigrette, but it's one of my favorites. It has such a great taste, and I like to do it. I'm not doing it just because we have it on our menu today, because we're using these other things. And we also want to get into the oven, which I almost forgot, was our strawberries. So we're going to roast strawberries, and they only need to go in the oven for a little bit. And we're just going to put them right on the pan. And I'm going to give some a few cuts so they are even. So let's just give a few cuts here. And I did core them. But just so they're the uniform. Okay. And you want to make sure your oven is nice and hot for this. We already have our oven at 400. So we have a nice uniform sizes. I did have a few big ones there, so we got those in half. And we're just going to sprinkle a small amount of sugar on them. I have less than a teaspoon in here just to bring out their goodness. They're already sweet, but we're not using a lot of them. Get this in the oven. And our salmon is just sizzling away. I love it. Okay, so let's make our dressing. So we have our olive oil, raspberry vinegar, salt and pepper. Actually just salt, our shallots, and some Dijon mustard. And that is just the classic vinaigrette. And we know that when we make our vinaigrette, depending on what vinegar we're using, we're going to change up those ratios. So when we use a red wine vinegar or a white vinegar, it's usually going to be a 3:2 ratio of all a good quality olive oil and the vinegar. When we want to make one with lemon juice, it's usually equal parts lemon and olive oil. When we do a balsamic, a little bit different. We do 3 tablespoons or 3 parts of olive oil to 1 part balsamic. And this one is kind of like that red wine vinaigrette. We're going to do a ratio of 3:2. So let's get that in there first. Let's whisk together. And let me also get our mustard in there as well. I didn't prep this before class because by the time you get it out of the container and into another container, you lose so much. So we just need a small amount. I'm going to say like a 1/4 teaspoon. I'm just going to put it right in the bowl. And again, this helps emulsify it and give it that little kick that we're looking for without overpowering it. Everybody's afraid to use that, but it's not going to overpower it. So we're going to add our, and I could smell that raspberry vinegar, add our oil, add our vinegar, and a little bit of salt. And we'll add our pepper at the end, add our shallots, and then we're just gonna give it a so nice. Okay, and then we'll just add a couple of red pepper, our crushed black pepper. Nice. And it just smells amazing. Let's see, it's nice and emulsified with that mustard, with everything that we've got going on in there. So let's take out our salmon. I think we're ready to take out our salmon, and I prepared a nice spinach egg noodle. So it has a little bit more fiber because of the egg, which is really nice. And I think that'll do really well with our salmon. So let's get that salmon out. We're going to, first we'll have our fettuccine here, our spinach fettuccine, and we're just going to add our pesto to that. It's really nice, and sun-dried tomatoes. And, I did coat this a little bit with olive oil beforehand. So sometimes just like to leave it, don't necessarily just start all and just kind of leave it on top. I like to do that. And then we're going to take our salmon. Okay. And I know we saved a sun-dried tomato here somewhere. Thought we did. Okay. Oh, it's right here. So we're gonna take some, or let's move this aside so you can see. Sorry about that. So I'm just cutting up some of our sun-dried tomato to have as a garnish. Just gonna sprinkle some of that on there just to give it some color. We also have some extra pine nuts and some cheese. And then we have our basil. Here in the corner, real nice. Okay, and let's get out our salmon. I'm gonna check that temperature of the salmon too, just to be sure. Let's check the doneness. And it's 5. I was gonna take it out at about 1:30. So that looks. So let's take that off and we can put some right on our pasta. Don't want to set this down somewhere. Let me get my pot holder here. See how it doesn't take that long, especially when you have everything prepped. So this could come together as a real nice meal for the weeknight. You know, even if you're not doing it over our pasta like we are, it can still come together very quickly. So we could either put it right on our pasta like this. It's beautiful. Another way to tell, so our fish, this is about 1 inch thick, and that's usually, the barometer is usually is usually 10 minutes for every inch. So it should just, and sockeye is a little bit different in texture, so it doesn't flake the same way that Alaskan does, but it does flake very nicely. Just put it there so you can see what that inside look like. Again, look how beautiful that looks. So we have a nice dinner there. And we have our omega-3s here from our salmon. It's wild, so loaded there. We have some protein. We have the fresh basil sauce on here. We have the pine nuts. You could also use walnuts to get more omega-3, just whatever your preference is. So just a really nice dish for a weeknight. And we could also portion that out. And let's look at our salad. Let's just set this aside for a minute. And we'll get our salad going. So I have a nice bed of arugula and spring mix. And what we're gonna do is just add our beets. So let me get a. So we're just gonna add some of the, let's go here. Golden beets. Oh. And we'll just set these aside. And we'll check on our strawberry. We should be good by now. And our strawberries are done. And you'll see they're not browned or anything. They're just nice and soft. So we'll go ahead and they're sizzling. So they're just going to be really nice. Another dressing that we made one time in class too was the with a poppy seed. That would go really nice on here, like a balsamic poppy seed dressing. Very nice. But you could see how nice that looks. And then we could put on top of here, since we're doing, you could always do a little goat cheese, a little feta cheese, you know, some additional pine nuts on there would be very nice. And we have our beautiful salad. There we go. And then while we're waiting for our galette, I just wanted to show you one more thing that we could do with our leeks. So when we did, you know, we had our class last week. I really wanted to show this to you. And I did not have leeks. But last week we were making some shrimp for our shrimp salad. Remember, they made that beautiful shrimp and avocado salad. The avocado, as soon as we cut it, we marinated it with some lime juice, and we cooked our shrimp in the shell, and we cooked it with what was called a court bouillon, which is water, some white wine, and then a classic court bouillon will also have this, and you will see this in some soups and stews too. So what we do is we're going to add a bouquet garni, and what that is we're going to use 2 leek leaves, and it's just a way to impart some flavor without just dumping a mass of different herbs in there. So this is just going to add a real nice flavor. So let me adjust my camera so you can see how we make this. So we take a leek and we lay it flat, and we're going to use that long part. We're going to take about a tablespoon of thyme and about maybe 10 or so peppercorns, and then a bay leaf, just one. And we're going to fold it over just like that. And again, and then we're going to take another leaf, another leek leaf, and we're going to fold it the opposite way, just like that. And we've got this little guy sticking out here. Let me get rid of him. Okay, so we have one going one way, then we have this one going this way. Okay, so everything is nice and neat. It's not going to come out of here. You might get a little bit of time come out of here. And of course, there's a lot of jokes with that, right? But now what we do is we tie this with some butcher's twine, just like a little present, and we leave about maybe 8 inches of the string, and you could tie it to the top of the rim, or you could let it the whole thing in there, and then whenever your stock is done, or whenever your soup is done, or whatever you were trying to impart flavor in it, you just remove this whole thing and it could be discarded. I like to compost it. This is all compostable, but just a great way. And sometimes too, if you do not have a leek, you could always use a small amount of cheesecloth too, so it allows that flavor to infuse. This does the same thing, but imagine instead of that, when you're using cheesecloth, yes, it could move freely, but cheesecloth isn't adding any additional flavor. You're getting all this outstanding flavor from the leek, plus the bay leaf, plus the peppercorn. And those are things that we typically don't, we usually discard anyhow, right? We don't want to bite into a peppercorn. We don't want to bite into a bay leaf, but they do impart some fabulous flavor. So it's just a good thing to keep in mind, especially when you don't know what to do with the rest of your leeks. There's only so much baked potato and leek soup that you can make, plus galettes. So let's check on our galette and see if it's done. It might have to be a few more minutes, so I will definitely post a video of that. And actually, it's looking pretty good. It looks really good, in fact, and it's sliding. Oh my goodness, it smells amazing. I'm going to take a peek at the bottom here just to see. Let me get something to set that on. I'm going to take something. I just don't want that crust not to be done. You don't want it to be doughy anywhere. So let's just see. And you see how it got that nice golden brown flavor with the egg wash on there. So let's just, where is my spatula that we were using for our salmon? I'll just grab something else here. And we'll just take a peek of what it looks like on the bottom. Okay, and it's still a little soft, so it needs some more time, but still, look at this, how amazing this looks. So I encourage you to try this. It has a wonderful aroma. It's make a very nice, we could just cut this into, you know, little triangles would be nice. So you get a little bit of everything. That feta is going to be so creamy, and that dill is just going to go amazing with it. It's going to be a really nice addition to your brunch recipes. Let's get that back in the oven. So, but I just wanted to show you that how beautiful it's looking. It's only going to get a little bit better, but the smell is wonderful. So we have our salad. And we have our salmon and pasta dish. Again, something that could come together. Some people ask me, how can I get started on the Mediterranean diet right away? What can I do? What are some simple ways? Well, start having anything that you were going to have chicken, if you're going to have chicken and pasta, or if you were going to have some type of like spaghetti and meatballs, something like that. Why not start trying to add shrimp or salmon to those dishes, or clams? All of those have the omega-3. So that's just a few ways to get that. We want to make sure that we're getting our 2 to 3 servings of fish in per week to be on the anti-inflammatory eating pattern. So it's just a really great way. So just a really easy weeknight meal. If you have your salmon, it's always great to take it out the night before. Remember to take it out of that packaging so it's nice and easy to work with. And it doesn't, get that dangerous gas. You always want to remove it from that packaging. Wild is going to be the best source of those omega fatty 3 acids. So I encourage you to do that. And then we have a nice high protein pasta with it. Remember, this is, there's definitely more than 4 portions here with the pasta. So that will go a long way. And then, trying to get those 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. We have those beets, we have the arugula, the beautiful mixed greens, and then we have our strawberries on top. And then we made a really wonderful vinaigrette with some extra virgin olive oil, all of those components. And then we put a little bit of pine nuts on those as well. Could also have been almonds or walnuts too. So just great to have all those on hand. But again, all these recipes will be on my website. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm always happy to help you make a substitution, or if there's something I didn't cover, or there's something you would like to see, I could definitely address that. And I'm sorry you didn't get to see I couldn't do the pie dough in front of you, but again, really easy recipe for that to come together. And I will post pictures of that finished product, and I will also cut it open so you can see what that looks like and how that will look on your brunch table or your dinner table. But who wouldn't like to come home to a meal like this? They could come together very quickly. Don't be intimidated. If you could read, you could certainly follow a recipe. Remember, you always want to read the whole recipe through just to make sure there's no surprises in the middle, like, oh, now refrigerate this for a half hour. So you always want to make sure that you're doing that. And again, so try some of these recipes that are taken from the anti-inflammatory eating pattern, or should I say, meet the criteria for the anti-inflammatory eating pattern, and you'll stay on the path to wellness. Thank you so much and have a great day.